Welcome to Business Class, a podcast for people wanting to upgrade their thinking, upgrade their learning, and upgrade their life. I'm your host, Eugenia Pantahos, founder of Business Class Collective, best-selling author, and life coach. If you're an entrepreneur, a startup, or someone who dreams of reaching their full potential, then you're in the right place. You'll feel empowered and inspired to design the life you've always wanted. Let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the show. I hope you're all well. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast. There's a lot that has gone on. Last year in November, I am thrilled to say that I had sold out of my copies of Greek Life. Many of you may know that I'm the author of an award-winning Mediterranean cookbook titled Greek Life, Family Culture Food. And Greek Life is in its third print run, and it's book that has been embraced globally and nationally, and something that I'm very, very proud of. So a lot of work was being done, sending out invoices, sending out books, and I think it was just the build up to the end of Christmas that was a real push, because of course it's an ideal Christmas present, and having sold out of my third print run in November was just astonishing. So I'm grateful to every stockist that I have, to every person who reached out to me to purchase the book, and often multiple copies at that. And my stockists who have supported me from day one. It has been a remarkable, remarkable journey, and one that I had to back myself and show up in the face of rejection from mainstream publishers to bring this book to fruition. And I'm so glad I did, because it's added so much value to people's lives. It's created interest in Greek cuisine and culture and celebration, and a touch of philosophy, so people are inspired by my book. I learned that it's a book that is on display in people's homes, and I receive amazing photos of it being styled in their homes. It's something that I couldn't have imagined, but I backed myself, and now we've reached a 10-year anniversary, which has been just amazing. So as a backstory, I thought I'll just explain to you that Greek Life originally was a book that I wrote for my immediate family. It was a book that would contain the recipes, tradition and culture and lessons imparted by my parents. And it was a way to pass forward to future generations that knowledge. I became acutely aware that I was like a custodian. I had this responsibility that if I didn't bridge the gap between my parents' generation and the future generations of our family who found themselves on the other side of the world, then that knowledge would be lost. What I didn't expect was the response I had from people once I had the courage to say out loud that I'd written a book. I think that is what was behind my driving force and self-belief. You see, when I first wrote Greek Life, I was honestly just going to go to Officeworks and have it printed off and bound and given to the members of my family. But having the courage, when I was asked one day how it is I spend my spare time, I thought, do I or do I not say that I've written a book? I thought, no, I will say it out loud. And the minute you say something out loud, you've got to own it, right? So the response I got was, oh, we need that book. And then I tested the market over and over again, and the response was, oh, we need that book. So as fate would have it, I was at a cafe and enjoying a breakfast and working on an MBA assignment. I'd already just finished the first proper draft of the book. So I'd gone over it multiple times, refined it, expanded it, contracted it, put placeholders where I wanted images to be. Like, I really just did a lot of work. And I was finishing this MBA assignment, and this lady came and sat next to me, and she had a gentleman who came up to her, and they started talking about books. And I thought to myself, because I could hear their conversation, I thought, is this that moment? Is this that crossroad in your life where you've got to show up? And after this gentleman left, I kind of turned to her and I said, oh, excuse me. I said, by any chance, are you a publisher? And she said, no, I'm an editor. And I said, well, look, I've written a book, and if I'm going to do anything with it, I'll need an editor, and would you mind looking at my book? And so she said to me she couldn't promise anything, and that she would get back to me in a few weeks if I could bring my USB with a book on it. And we agreed to meet up, and there it was, that first truly vulnerable moment where you give someone else the thing that you've been working on with passion and purpose for so long. And 3 weeks later, we met at the same cafe, and she just looked at me for the longest time, and I'll never forget this, and put her hands in prayer position and bowed and said to me she would be honoured to be the editor for this book. And I just can't even tell you what that meant to me. It was so overwhelming. It gave me confidence. It gave me this self-belief that even though I'd written this book from a place of love, she recognised that. And she recognised that I'd put something of myself into this book, and that this book was for future generations. I can't even describe adequately the words and the feelings that I felt. So then we got to work, and of course, again, contracted, expanded, and did all this other stuff. And in the meantime, I was pitching my book to publishers, and I got rejected multiple times. But it didn't put me off. I thought I had enough self-belief now that this book was important enough to bring into the world. And although traditional publishers didn't know where to place it, I spoke to bookstores and got an idea of where, like, cultural cookbooks, family memoirs are all sitting. So I knew that genre kind of existed, but not quite like my book. And then my editor got me in touch with a graphic designer who nailed my vision for the book. We had a few tweaks about the images and the fonts used and the colour scheme, and in the second meeting he'd nailed it. And I just cannot believe just how beautifully he came up with that design based on meeting me as a person and having that conversation about how I see the fonts and the colours and the spacing and everything else. So he truly nailed my vision, and for that I'm very grateful. So these two people came into my life. Greek Life was initially launched as an ebook, and I had an ebook publisher do that for me while I was still canvassing with publishers. So again, after a few more rejections, I thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to find myself a printer, and I'm going to back myself. And so with that, I developed a mind map. I developed a strategy. I wrote a letter, how and what Greek life would mean to people and how it would be received. So I was very articulate about putting my thoughts to paper. And I can tell you that within that first print run, all of the things that I had strategically planned, all of the businesses that I had reached to stock my book, all of them came to fruition. And on that list was also that Greek Life would win a Gourmand International Cookbook Award. That was really quite audacious. And I remember my father was in hospital, and the timeline had come up that submissions for the Gourmand International Cookbook Awards would need to be submitted and sent off, and I had to send a copy to France and to Germany. So 2 copies went in the post. I remember I went to the post office, wrapped them, wrote the name out, and I took them to the counter and I wished them all the best. I actually said it in my heart of hearts. I said, good luck. And then a lot of things happened with Dad's health, and he deteriorated quite quickly and sadly passed away in September 2017. And what then transpired was, of course, a period of mourning and grief, and losing my father was absolutely, I'd already lost my mum, so losing my father meant, my parents weren't above me anymore. Like, you kind of rise up to that next level in the series of generational line. So one day I'm at my computer and an email comes through saying that I've been granted an award. And I kind of ignored it. I didn't think anything of it because by this point I'd totally forgotten about the submission. And then I went back to it the next day. I thought, I'll have a good read of this. And there it was. Greek Life had won Best Mediterranean Cookbook for Australia and Best Self-Published Cookbook. So 2 awards in the Gourmand International Cookbook Awards, which is the Olympic Games of the cooking world. I can't even tell you how many books were submitted from all over the world. We're talking about thousands of books, if not hundreds of thousands. And there I was, an unknown author, someone who wrote from the heart, someone who backed herself 100%. And I thought, if I'm going to create this book, it's going to be the highest quality book on Greek culture and Greek recipes. And that's exactly what I executed. So it had a dust jacket, it had the highest quality paper, it was a hardback, it had a black velvet ribbon. It was going to be the trousseau, the book that everyone needed and everyone would want to keep for future generations. That was my vision, and I executed that, and I couldn't believe that award took me to Frankfurt in Germany. And I got to be with other authors and see my book on display as a winner for 2 categories. And it's something that's not lost on me. I think when you put your heart and soul into something and you've done some market research, so you know who your audience is. And I had a clearly defined strategy. I had a clearly defined goals. I had a clearly defined market. And even that went beyond what I thought I could reach. So as an example, I had a person in the US buy my book, and the next thing I know is I get these beautiful photos of a family excursion. They took my book to the Statue of Liberty. I have a photo of my book in front of the Statue of Liberty and in front of the New York skyline. You cannot make people do those things. Like, that's how much love people felt for my book and so much appreciation for what I had put into this volume. I had a trip to New York and I got to meet these people, and they took me and my sisters-in-law and sister and her husband out for dinner. We went to a club room, and then we went to this beautiful restaurant, and we were spoilt by these people both in Canada and in New York. It was absolutely amazing. And then to see my book in the Monaco Times, that is something else. We're talking about on the other side of the world, someone has written about my book in the Monaco Times. It was in a publication in America. It's been in publications in Greece. It's been publications here in Australia. It actually had the centre spread of Essay Life magazine here in South Australia, the Christmas edition. And I had Essay Life come to my home to experience a traditional Greek Christmas. And I remember the stylist saying, "Look, Jenny, you don't need to make the soup." And I just said to them when they arrived and the soup was ready, and I said, "Look, there's no way in the world I could ever look at that photograph and know the pot was empty." So we come back to authenticity. We come back to, what does it mean? How do you show up for your life? How do you show up for your ideas and your dreams and your hopes? And what strategy do you have in place to make that a reality? So when I talk about mindset, when I talk about commitment to what you want to do in life, this is all part of it. And Greek Life was the catalyst for me to apply everything I've learned in my lifetime, in my working career, in my studies, and in my influence from people around me in the workplace, like the entrepreneurs I've been lucky to work for. This all came into this volume. And already, here we are, I'm recording this in March, and here we are, and I already have lists of people who are waiting for the 4th print run. So it's not lost on me. I think I've put my heart and soul into this book, and it's been embraced so preciously, and for that I'm grateful. So whatever it is that you're working on in your life, whatever it is that you are creating or putting out into the world, if you do it with the right intention and you do it with action and you do it with a vision and you take those steps, it is possible. But you cannot sit on your laurels and say, well, I've done this and let's just see who comes to me. No, it's not like that. If you believe in what you've done and you've created this amazing piece of work, whatever it is, it could be designs, it could be writing, it could be styling, it could be counselling, it can be anything at all, consulting. But if you've done this and you know your worth and you know your work, it's all in the action. Otherwise, it's just an idea. So if you'd like to discuss any of your life plans or business plans, I am here for you. So we can tee up a time, make a time to discuss what your ideas are and how they can be executed. In the meantime, if you're an entrepreneur and you'd like to expand on your business knowledge or know how to start a business, I have the e-course for entrepreneurs on the Business Class website. And also, I'll be hosting a few events this year, so look out for that. If you're not on the mailing list, please join. You'll get a free download direct to your inbox when you do so. It's free to join, and it just means that you're in the know before everyone else. I'm in the process of writing my 5th book. I'm almost finished. I've got probably 2 more chapters to go. And watch this space, get on the mailing list so that you can be invited to the book launch. If you love what I bring you, please share it with your family and friends and colleagues. Thanks for the love. Until next time. You've been listening to Business Class presented by Eugenia Pantahos, founder of Business Class Collective. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcast, subscribe, rate and review this podcast. Share the love and let your family and friends know too. You can follow Business Class Collective on Instagram and Facebook. Join me next time.